Dear students, welcome back to the online sessions on embedded systems. Okay, so we were discussing on the differences between the ARM and Sharp processors. And we further discuss in today's session on the Sharp process and some of the network embedded system bus protocols. Okay. Now we discussed in the previous class that the Sharp processor is normally going to have the Harvard architecture, and the Harvard architecture is normally going to be called as an advanced Harvard architecture or something like super Harvard architecture computer ATS. So Sharp is nothing but super Harvard computer architecture. That means something like advanced Harvard architecture. As the name indicates, Harvard architecture, that means Harvard means what? There is a separate memory for data and separate memory for program instructions. Therefore, you're going to have separate buses, separate set of buses for data memory as well as for the program memory. Which means what now? You can have now so much of extra capabilities. You can increase the capabilities of the processor just by incorporating the Harvard architecture. Only thing is that the system is going to become a bit complex and system cannot be really standardized. The reason being is that it is basically a tailored architecture, tailored hardware architecture. There are two hardware architectures. One is going to be von Neumann architecture and next one is going to be Harvard architecture, as we discussed earlier. So Harvard architecture is basically a tailored version of the hardware architecture, right? So in the previous sessions, we have completed the differences there, something like features of the Sharp processor we discussed, and today's session we go with the programming model of the Harvard architecture. That means programming model is normally comprising of various registers that will be used in the program. That is what called basically programming model meant for. That means whenever in the exam a programming model is been asked means what? You should write down the various registers that is normally used in the programming part of the underlying processor. Okay, so here we just discussed just now that Harvard architecture is going to add so much of flexibilities. So in part of that, what we can have is the programming model gives different register details. That means many types of registers can be simply added here in the case of Sharp processor to enhance the capabilities of the Sharp processor. So in towards that particular agenda, what we go ahead now, we're going to have register files represented by R0 to R15. Okay, so they can be aliased with the names as F0 to F15 for floating point. So it can have Sharp process is going to have separate status registers to maintain the status information of various operations in the system. Then it is going to have separate loop registers. Now we discussed the purpose of loop registers already. So loop registers are normally meant to perform the subroutine tasks, which are going to get repeated continuously. So in a program, say for example, in a particular process, if you know that a certain set of instructions are going to get repeated continuously at many places in the processor, then we go with the loop registers, something like multiply operation. So multiply operations will be used at many places. So to perform this multiply operation, we use the loop registers so that we can simply speed up the operation of multiplication. So for multiplication, what is required? Simply we require only two registers. If these two registers are used in the program means what? Automatically at the background, these two register contents has to be multiplied and result has to be stored in the predefined location. That means in order to perform such background operations, repeated operations, sorry, we use the loop registers. So that is what one more extended feature that we can really think of over here. Then one more extension is done here is called the data address generator registers. This data address generation register is called DAG1, DAG2. DAG1 is used to program or to address to store the data memory, and this DAG2 is normally used to store the program information. So therefore, one more extended feature is something like data address register generators. That means data address generator registers as normally used, which is going to be extra registers. That means more the number of registers, more are going to be the added functionalities to the processor, right? Because everything we are going to do with the memory, with the data only, or with the programs only. If we enhance the capability of memory, then definitely you can store more amount of data. Since you can store more amount of data, you can really process many other functionalities. Okay. We can perform many other functionalities. That in that process, many registers are normally been added over here. The next one is interrupt registers. To deal with the interrupt operations, there can be software interrupts, hardware interrupts. In order to deal with various types of interrupts in the software as well as in the hardware interrupts, we are going to have interrupt registers separately. It is going to be quite common in almost all the kinds of the processes. Interrupt registers is quite common among these three. Then 16 primary registers, 16 alternate registers. So primary registers are designated with the name R0 to R15. Alternate registers are designated by name F0 to F15. So each register is normally going to hold 40 bits of data. Now R0 to R15 are normally meant for fixed point numbers, to store fixed point numbers, and F0 to F15 are normally meant for the floating point numbers, right? So these are all the extra registers. That means except these interrupt registers, everything is going to be an extra register in the case of the SHARC processes. Okay. That means apart from the general purpose registers, these are going to be the extra registers that we are simply using. General purpose registers, serial communication. Okay, we have used many special purpose registers, other special purpose registers for serial communication, like SBUF registers, temporary registers. Okay, general purpose registers like ABCD in the case of microprocessor. So like that, all of them will be there, but these registers are going to be extra registers apart from the general purpose registers and the special function registers, as is provided by the other predecessor processes. Okay, so that means what it is simply increase the data handling capability by just incorporating these many kinds of registers over here. Okay. Now SHARC processors programming model contains three registers, which is going to speak about the status, known as the arithmetic status, sticky registers, and mode 1 type of the registers. These three are the registers used in the programming model continuously, and these registers are going to use R0 to R15 contents of the registers. Using these contents, these registers are normally used to program for various operations related to the arithmetic operations, related to the data storage capabilities. Now this sticky register, SKTY register, is sticky version of the arithmetic status register, and the sticky registers are set along with the arithmetic status registers, but not cleared until cleared by an instruction. That means sticky registers are something like your RAM data. So once we store something, until we erase, the data will be there as it is. Until you reset or until you override the data will be resetted as it is, right? It don't get wiped off. So that means in order to remove the data, you have to clear using an instruction from the sticky registers. Then SHARC performs saturation arithmetic on the fixed point values. That means here, once the data is totally overloaded, once the data stored in the registers is overloaded, That means it is totally saturated. While performing arithmetic operations, you should perform saturated arithmetic operations also on the fixed point values. So it even supports that saturated arithmetic values. It don't say that I really cannot do it. It supports for even at a saturation level also. Therefore, saturation mode is controlled by the arithmetic logic unit saturation between the mode 1 registers. And apart from this, it is going to have several other registers called the other flags known as zero flag, negative flag, and overflow flag, fixed point, fixed point carry flag, auxiliary carry flag, floating point, invalid flag. So all these are the flag bits normally used in the arithmetic status registers. So this is what programmer is going to use. All these registers are normally used by the programmer. Therefore, it comes under the programming model. Then let us look into the other special registers that we are using here called as data address generators, DA1 and DA2. So DA1 is normally meant for data memory address bus, which is going to be of 32-bit long. So using these registers, we access the memory indirectly with a pre-modify and post-modify modes. Then the data address register 2 is normally meant for the program memory address bus, which is going to generate 24-bit addresses on the program memory address bus. So these bit sizes are going to be fixed. Okay. Now each data address generator register has 4 types of registers, such as the index register, modify register, base register, and limit registers. Okay, that means they are used for program memory and data memory. The first one, DAG1, is used for the data memory, DAG2 is used for the program memory. So this is indexed registers, this is a modify registers, these are going to be base registers, and the last one is going to be the limit registers. Limit registers designated by number B, base registers by L, modify is by M, and the I is going to be the index register. Now, what is the purpose of index register? Index register normally used as a pointer to the memory. Something like, program counter, okay, as a stack pointer or a pointer variable. So it is normally going to act as a pointer to the memory location. And a modify register contains increment value for the advancing the pointer. That means for how many bytes the base pointer has to be incremented. Index register contains the base pointer. How many bytes it has to increment? 1 byte, 2 byte, 3 byte, 4 byte. That information will be provided in the modify registers. And the base and limit registers. Limit registers is up to how long the value has to go. Base register is going to be the starting location of the appropriate memory location. So like this, we are going to manage such a bunch of registers continuously, right? So this is what the various registers which we are going to have. Now, due to the advantage of Harvard architecture, the SHARC processor is capable of providing multi-function computations, are known as instruction level parallel processing. This is what I just spoke earlier. Due to Harvard architecture, it can support parallel processing. So parallel processing means what? Executing more than one instruction in a single clock cycle is called parallel processing. In the digital communication system or a digital computer system, everything should be understood in terms of the clock cycle. In one clock cycle, how many operations have been done? It depends on that. So therefore, in a multifunction computations, more than one job will be performed by a single clock pulse. During a single clock pulse, if more than one task is completed by a processor, then it simply comes under the multifunction computational processor. So SHARC is nothing but a multifunctional computational processor. So what are the issues that we can come across in such multi-functional computational processor? Dual add subtract operations. Dual means what? Two. That means both data as well as program instructions are normally support dual add subtract operations because it has got two sets of buses. Okay, therefore we can perform this. Apart from this, we can perform fixed point multiply accumulate and add subtract average instructions. So this fixed point multiply accumulate is going to be a single instruction handled by the registers. Okay, loop registers handled by the loop registers, and also add subtract average can be performed. That means these two operations can be performed simultaneously. Similarly, floating point multiply and ALU operations can be performed simultaneously. ALU means what? Arithmetic and logic operations like rotate left, rotate right. They are called logical operations. Okay, end operation or operation, right? Arithmetic operation means plus, minus, multiplication. All these are arithmetic operations. So you can perform both of these operations simultaneously, that is parallelly, due to the due to the utilization of the multi-function capabilities. Then last one is going to be multiplication and dual add subtract operations. It can perform multiplication. Once again, multiply is the one which is going to be a very crucial task here, important task here. And the dual add subtract operation. That means we are enhancing the capability of computation by incorporating the Harvard architecture. This is the advantage. If at all you wanted to enhance the capabilities, you have to go with the Harvard architecture only. So that's why a Harvard architecture is normally used in the Shark processor. So Shark processor is going to support pipeline. What is pipelining? The instructions are processed in 3 cycles simultaneously. What are the 3 cycles? There is a separate fetch instruction from the memory cycle. There is a separate decode, opcode, and operand cycle. There is a separate execution unit. So these 3 are nothing but 3 pipes. So these 3 pipes instructions will be going on continuously. Therefore, it is going to come under the pipeline instructions. And apart from this, Shark is going to support delayed and non-delayed branches of instructions. There are 2 branches like delayed branch and a non-delayed branch of instructions. Something like, you know, in the communication process, there is a dedicated link and there is going to be a dedicated link and there is going to be a public link. In the case of dedicated link, what happens? You're going to have a non-delayed transmission. In the case of public networks, we're going to have a delayed transmissions. Okay. So like that. So that means what? Shark processor is normally going to support such kind of a data transmissions inside the processor. You can even really figure out which is the one which is highest priority, which is the one which is of lowest priority. Based on the priority levels, we can just simply put them in the non-delayed branch or in the delayed branch. So it's a very huge processor specified by bit in the branch instruction. We can access the branch instruction using bits also, because hard coding is supported here. Therefore, bitwise access is also supported here. 2 instruction branch delay slots are provided. So that's what here. So 2 instruction branch delay slots are provided because of delayed, non-delayed branches. So 6 nested levels of looping in hardware is used. That means 6 nested levels of looping. That means if at all you have a 6 repeated instructions, need to be 6 different repeated instructions need to be followed, are going to get utilized in the Shark processor, then it is going to support in the hardware itself. So that is the advantage. So it supports twin bus architecture. What is twin bus? There are 2 buses. One bus is used for fetching instructions. Another bus is going to be used for fetching data. There are 2 memories. One is for data, another one is for instructions. Therefore, one bus for fetching instructions, one more bus for fetching data simultaneously. Therefore, it is called as twin bus architecture. In the Shark processor, just now because of all the above features, we can improve multiprocessing by allowing more steps to occur during each clock cycle. Multiprocessing means what? In a single clock cycle, more than one task has to be completed. If it is so, it is called multi-processing application. Then apart from the addressing modes used by the other predecessor microcontrollers like register addressing mode, immediate addressing mode, direct addressing mode, okay, indexed addressing mode. Apart from them, it is going to support several other extra addressing modes, such as the simplest addressing mode, absolute addressing mode, post modify with update mode, base plus offset mode, circular buffers, bit reversal addressing mode. That means if the addressing modes are increased, what has been increased? Addressing modes are used to access the different types of instructions in the program. That means the types of instructions that you can use in the program are going to get enhanced by enhancing the addressing modes. So addressing modes plays a vital role in giving support to multiple processings. Okay, so this is what the theory we have. The next, let us have a differences between the ARM and the Shark processor, advanced RISC computer machine, and super Harvard architecture computer machine. ARM7 is usually going to support von Neumann architecture. ARM9 is going to support Harvard architecture, whereas Shark processor is going to be called as a modified Harvard architecture or super Harvard architecture. That means whatever the Harvard architecture used here in ARM9, that same architecture is going to come up here with enhanced capabilities. That is what called modified Harvard architecture. That such as on-chip memory will be greater than 1 gigabits. It is evenly split between the program memory and the data memory. That means that whatever on-chip memory that you're going to use, it will be divided evenly for data and program memory. Now, in this Shark processor, program memory can be used to store some data, and that data will be used as an instruction at the later stages. It allows data to be fetched from both the memories in parallel. So this is because of parallel processing. It allows data to be fetched from both the memories in parallel. It means you can fetch data from program memory as well as the data memory simultaneously. So that means it is due to two different buses provided for two different memory locations. The next last topic in this unit is going to be the network embedded system. Network embedded system is what? The embedded system, whenever, if at all you wanted to connect an embedded system into a network, then you have to use a bus, and that bus should come under the network embedded system bus architecture. Now, in order to connect an embedded system in the network, we are going to use several protocols. That is bus protocols, I2C bus, CAN bus, internet enabled. By just combining all these things, I2C bus, CAN bus, and some parts of the bus protocols, we can have internet enabled embedded systems. What do you mean by bus protocols? Bus protocols are normally meant for serial communication between different peripheral computers in the network. Three important standards are normally used in providing such serial communication between different peripheral components in the embedded system network, such as VME. It is known as Warsaw Module Eurocard, is a computer bus standard. PCI is nothing but peripheral component interconnect protocol, peripheral component interconnect protocol, and ISA is nothing but industry standard architecture protocol. So using these protocols, we interact serially between one peripheral component to the another peripheral components. And for distributed embedded systems, we use the interconnect network protocols such as I2C and CAN bus. So CAN bus is known as controller area networks. I2C is known as integrated circuits protocol. Okay, so these two are the protocols which we're going to use. So anyway, we'll discuss these protocols in detail in the next session. Okay, so thank you very much for the today's session.